if you want to hang on to your muscle after, after 35, you must do resistance training. There's no way out of it. You must lift and lift heavy. Because those signals coming from the hormones don't work as well. We can give you back hormone therapy, but it's never going to be as good as your 25-year-old ovaries. So I can't replace that,
Mm.
And so you must eat enough protein to support the growth of muscle, and you must do the lifting. Creatine is very helpful here as well when we talk about supplementation. And then we're pushing fat into the abdominal cavity where we've never really had it before. So across the menopause transition, a woman's total body fat, 8% of it is visceral or intra-abdominal or belly fat in layman's terms. You take that same woman through across menopause, that goes up to 23% with no changes in diet and exercise. Documented in multiple studies with
It's so
MRIs.
unfair.
Yes, it's so unfair. So is it inevitable? No, but it takes work. So what do we know works? This is what I counsel my patients about. I have a body scanner. I do the in-body impedance scanner. We look at muscle mass and visceral fat. Those are the only two things we really look at. I don't care what she weighs. We don't talk about weight or BMI anymore, okay? I say, okay, your visceral fat is high. What do we know works? High fiber diets. Eating lots and lots of food rich in fiber, okay? At least 25 to 35 grams a day. Cardiovascular benefits really start topping out around 38 grams per day for women for decreasing her, and dementia risk as high as 45. So I'm like, most women in the US are getting 10 a day. So they're getting like a third to maybe a fourth of what they really should be eating. Movement, consistent, cardio here, zone 2 training. So not a leisurely walk, a walk like there's a bear chasing you and you can't run, like really, really getting there where you can talk through the workout, but you're struggling. So that's kind of zone 2. That's where our maximum fat burning happens. Lifting weights, super helpful, keeping those muscles strong. Probiotics, so eating a diet rich in probiotics or supplementing with probiotics has also been shown to be helpful. Turmeric, some decent studies looking at menopausal women and visceral fat accumulation. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory, can be a little tough on the liver, so talk to your doctor first. That's not one you want to take, without being followed. But there's lots and lots of things that we can do to limit visceral fat accumulation. And hormone therapy, of course, is probably the best thing that you could do is limit the time your body's away from estrogen.
That's one of the big questions people always ask me is when they start HRT, am I going to lose weight? And sometimes they'll come back 6 weeks later for their first review and they'll say, oh, I didn't really lose any
It's
weight.
not a magic pill. It's not a magic weight loss pill. Take that out of your head. Most of my patients follow me on social, so they kind of know or they've read the book. So they kind of come in prepped and ready. But that is something that initially you should tell you, this is not a magic weight loss pill, but this will make your efforts easier.
Well, I even think when you get someone to be able to sleep through the night, then
Well, it lowers their cortisol level.
and they're going to just even feel more like going for that walk.
Right. Everything gets better. They eat less. They have less hunger. They have, multiple studies looking at sleep deprivation and increasing appetite and decreasing movement. You're just tired, all of that compounds. And if we can get her back to sleep, then all of her efforts are going to work better in her favor.
You've probably seen all the memes of women saying that eating all the protein has become a full-time job. So tell me, why do we suddenly need more protein? People seem to be very confused by this.
So, I grew up in the 80s and I, was always thin and I never ever thought about how much protein I was eating. I was always just looking at calories so that I could stay thin. And if I was thin, I was healthy and that's all I needed to do. And little did I know I was chipping away at my bone and muscle strength, which are critical to me now, right? Critical to keep me out of a nursing home. And that is totally dependent on protein. So I'm telling my daughters, I'm telling my, patients coming in for preemptive menopause counseling, start these habits now before the shit hits the fan so that you have this stuff down and it's just going to make your transition so much easier. Women are not eating enough protein. They tend to eat almost nothing with breakfast, a little bit with lunch and kind of stack everything in the last little bit. In order to avoid frailty and sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass, you need about 1.6 grams per day and you should divide it up with every meal and snack. So 1.6 grams for every kilogram of lean body mass is going to be somewhere like for me, 100 to 120. So most of my patients are falling between 80 to 130 grams per day. Now that's to avoid frailty. That is not to max out her maximum muscle mass. I mean, if you're bodybuilding, if you're doing serious weight training, you probably need more than that in order to really build.
I know you've got a culinary medicine qualification. Can you give our listeners a couple of hints? Like, what is a really good breakfast and lunch to
Sure.
have?
So I have a little trick I like called the Mary Claire parfait. And so, if you're not dairy sensitive, it's just plain Greek yogurt. In the US, I'm sure here. I went to grad school in New Zealand, so I kind of, um the plain Greek yogurt and add your own fruit to it. So I like to throw in a mix of berries. I put in flax, chia, and hemp seeds. And, to add in protein, I'll take a scoop of my favorite protein powder. And I'll either eat that as just a yogurt parfait or, throw some ice, a little bit of water, and turn that into a shake. To help me hit those protein goals. And that way you've got your probiotics, you've got anthocyanins, you've got fiber, with the chia, you've got omega-3s. You're kind of hitting so many boxes, and you're getting a wide variety. I tell my patients, especially those who are on GLP-1s, we have probably 20% of our patients end up on a GLP-1, to really focus on plants and protein. Protein, lots of lean, healthy sources, and making sure we have this little goal. And I stole this from Zoe, Zoe Nutrition.
Oh, I love them.
Love them. Is 30 plants a week. So we did a strong challenge at the beginning of the year. I love doing challenges a couple times a year with my followers. And one of the goals, and this was not a weight loss challenge, this was a get strong challenge. So I had a trainer come in and do some very basic workouts, teaching them, but we had 30 plants a week. And that's hard. I mean, if you don't do that, it's easy for me in Sydney on this trip. I mean, I'm having avocado toast and they're throwing all kind of greens on there. I'm like, this is amazing. I love the food here. And then looking for lean, protein to be eaten every meal and snack. Just stay on top of your protein goals. So I've got there's these delicious like dehydrated edamame beans that are like salted or with different flavors. And that little packet has like 12 grams of protein and probably 8 or 9 grams of fiber. I'm like, this is the best snack ever. I always have them. They're everywhere I go. They're in every drawer in my clinic, so between patients, I can quickly get a handful and snack.
Okay, that's great. I know that you have supplements, and I think it's fantastic, to be honest, because patients are so overwhelmed. I'm
I
sure.
don't think clinicians can sell supplements did I get that wrong?
Yeah, no, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, but in pharmacies in Australia, I'm sure it's the same in the US. In fact, I've been there. The aisles are really confusing. There's like
Oh, yeah.
so many.
And we have health food stores and
And-
we have
Yeah,
pharmacies.
and you
we
don't know
have-
where to start, and people are really quite overwhelmed as to what they should do.
So here's my best tool, and this is what I learned, from my nutrition certification. Download a free tracker. And there's, my daughter has an undergraduate degree, the one who's in medical school now, in nutrition science. Like she was going to become a registered dietitian, but she took the MCAT and surprised us and went to medical school. So, but in her undergrad, they used something called Chronometer. It's CRONOMETER, and it was developed for nutrition science, for dietitians and PhD nutritionists. And so it's not about calorie counting and, keto, or it can do all that, but, it's really has a really clean database. So I recommend that to my patients. I'm like, just track what you eat for 2 weeks. Eat what you think is healthy and see where your gaps are. The supplements we sell are nutritional supplements. We're not selling menopause cures. I wish I could find one, but there's no such thing. Nothing will resuscitate your ovaries yet, right? And so, but most of my patients are deficient in fiber. I'm sure yours are very deficient in vitamin D.
Yeah.
And so I created a vitamin D, vitamin K, omega-3 combo because it's easy and I'm lazy. I don't like to take too many things, because I needed more. My patients needed more. I created a fiber supplement with multiple. We have amaranth, we have quinoa, we have psyllium, we have multiple, because I wanted a wide variety of sources for the fiber. We have a turmeric supplement. It's great for inflammation, especially there's studies done on women with arthritis and looking at decreasing pain. There is, we also have a creatine. So I'm super excited about creatine forever.
Okay, tell me about creatine, because I think of creatine and like big muscly
Right.
guys
And I
at
did
the gym.
too, forever. And then I found Abby Smith Ryan, who is like the world's preeminent female. She's an exercise sports nutrition. I mean, she's just, my God, she's so smart. And she did a deep dive on creatine, wrote this beautiful article looking at creatine through the lifespan for females, and really helped me understand that, we store a lot of creatine, especially when we're younger, and those stores drop off as we get older. And creatine is like critical for mitochondria and function. And so definitely, if you're going to spend the time in the gym and try to stay out of a nursing home and not get osteoporosis, you must lift weights. And so creatine can be additive. Now, there's anecdotal evidence suggesting that creatine would be helpful for, brain fog and for sleep and different things. Not enough data for me to say clearly, but for the benefits to muscle, and if the musculoskeletal, if the muscles are healthy, the bones tend to be healthy. They did do a study looking at creatine, and they just gave it to women with osteoporosis, and they didn't put them in the gym, didn't have them lift weight. They just did that de novo. It didn't do anything for their bones. However, it did a lot for their muscles, and now when you put them in the gym, we see gains in their bone density. So it seems to be synergistic with resistance training in women who are menopausal.
That's so interesting. And the other thing is that women who have already been diagnosed with osteoporosis, they're often really scared of exercise.
Right. They're like, I can't work out. I'm like, this is the most, like, the studies are done on women with osteopenia, with osteoporosis, who are already in a nursing home.
Yeah.
So they already can't take care of themselves, and they're putting them in the gym and having them lift. They're seeing tremendous gains in their, not only, they're decreasing the risk of falls. You don't fall, you tend to not break as often.
Yeah.
And so in the US, 1 in 2 women, 50% of women will have an osteoporotic fracture. I'm not okay with that. That's why I'm laying that solely at the feet of the WHI researchers who continue to preach the unbelievable, it's going to kill you, and somehow we're better off as a society if women just stay off hormones. It's killing us, and we deserve better.
Yeah, it's just, I just can't even understand. It actually is just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about DEXA scans. I presume it's called the same thing in the US. When do you think someone should have a DEXA scan?
Today.
Okay, because I have to say, I do
Today.
a lot, and then people seem to be really surprised by this.
So in the US, they're not recommended until 65. Let me tell you, ladies, the cow is out of the barn. You do not want to find out. The most women are not diagnosed with osteoporosis until they fracture.
Yeah, I know. So it's so much better to know when you've got osteopenia or
Right.
Yeah.
That you can, because let me tell you, when you see those numbers, I've never seen a woman more motivated to eat that protein and go to the gym and wear her weighted vest and do vibratory training and, and not have to take. I mean, we do have patients who do well with the bone building medications, but they have side effects, with the anti-resorptive agents. They're not easy. Right? And if I can get a woman and diagnose her early and teach her habits to hang on to that bone and muscle, and we can avoid all this mess, why wouldn't we focus on that?
I know, it's so bizarre.
So I tell patients to go pay out of pocket. It's $99 in most places, and go have a bone density.
Ours is about the same, and patients are really happy to do so. And unfortunately, I get surprises all the time.
All the time.
I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting this at all, and neither was the patient. So, just explain to us. I know you love your weighted vest. I always see you on there, with your weighted vest, and I've just started that because of you. And, what is happening, and why are they beneficial? Can you explain to people?
So I was, after 4 years of just doing menopause care and seeing, we stop the hot flashes and we get their brains back, and they don't want to quit their jobs, or, we get their libido back, and we get their vaginas fixed. And, then she's like, help me stay out of a nursing home. What do we need to do? So I'm like, okay, she needs to not have dementia. So I tell them to go read Lisa Mosconi's book, The Menopause Brain. That is your guide to not get dementia. Okay.
Isn't she amazing?
Amazing. She is a dear friend. And like my Menoverse, now that you're concluded, like that woman is unbelievable to me. And like she is a one-woman show. Like she is going to solve the question of how much does menopause have to do with the development of Alzheimer's disease. Like, she's going to fix it.
I wanted to scan my brain. I had menopause at 34, so I'm like, scan my brain.
Yes,
and like, maybe don't scan my brain.
No, maybe I don't want to know.
Maybe I don't want to know.
She's incredible. We just taped an Oprah special on menopause, and one of the UCLA neurologists was there who's doing a tremendous amount of research on, and she is convinced that, menopause is definitely contributing.
On Sunday morning, when I was out walking at Terrigal Beach, which is a local beach, I kept crossing paths with a number of women who all had vests on, just like me, weighted vests. And we all gave each other a bit of a knowing look, because these have become very, very popular in peri and postmenopausal women. You might not know what rucking is, but basically what it is walking with either a weighted vest or a weighted rucksack. I personally opt for the weighted vest because I find it very, very comfortable and very, very quick to put on. So for peri and postmenopausal women, there are definitely a number of health benefits that you can gain from walking with extra weight. One of the health concerns that many women have at this stage of life is developing heart disease. And unfortunately, we know in the postmenopause, the rates of heart disease for women really start to accelerate. So why might rucking or walking with weight change that? Well, basically, whenever you're walking with additional weight, it increases your heart rate more, and it basically makes your heart exercise a little bit harder. So hopefully making your heart a lot more healthy. So that's one of the benefits of rucking in comparison to standard walking. So if you're intrigued and ready to start rucking, my recommendation would be that you start low and go slow. So start by choosing a weight that is 5 to 10% of your body weight at maximum, and take it slowly. Go for maybe a 10 to 20 minute walk at first. Don't decide to go on a 5-hour hike the first time you strap on your weighted vest. So we've been chatting to our friends at Rucksack, and I've got a special discount code for you. So if you go to their website, which is www.rucksack.com, so RUKSAK.com, and use the code Shauna15, so that's SHAUNA 15, you're going to get a 15% discount. So whether you decide to go for a vest or whether you decide to go for one of their backpacks, either way, you're going to get 15% off.
This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare, or other professional advice. Information is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you have any health concerns, always consult your doctor.